He told me I was too plain to build a future with and vanished days before our anniversary. I was heartbroken, humiliated, and ready to disappear. But 3 months later, I walked into his office on the arm of someone he never saw coming. And let's just say I didn't stay plain for long. Hi, my name is Eliza, and I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna tell it anyways. You know how some people say they felt the shift before the breakup? That the energy changed, or they had a dream, or they just knew something was off? Yeah, I didn't. I was literally sitting on the couch making a mood board for our anniversary trip. Photos of mountain cabins, hot chocolate, fireplaces, the whole Pinterest dream. When his text popped up, 1 sentence. No emojis, no warning. You're a great person, but I just don't see a future with someone so plain. That word. Plain. It wasn't even cruel in the obvious way. Not like boring or ugly or clingy. It was worse. It was dismissive. It made me feel like wallpaper. Something you don't even notice until you want to change it. I stared at the screen for so long I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing. When I finally replied, it didn't deliver. Tried calling, straight to voicemail. Instagram? Gone. WhatsApp? Blocked. This man ghosted me 2 days before our anniversary. After dating for 2 years. 2 years. We'd picked out our future dog names. We had a joint streaming account. He had a drawer at my apartment. And just like that, I was reduced to a "you're too plain" and a block button. I didn't even cry at first. I just sat there frozen, still holding my phone in one hand and a glue stick in the other. The photos for our trip were half stuck to the poster board like a sick joke. He had kissed me that morning. Not even a quick "have a good day" kiss, a slow one. The kind that makes you think someone is looking at forever. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. The crying came later, on the 3rd day, when I still hadn't heard a word. When I finally opened my notes app and typed out the dumbest thing I've ever written. How to stop being boring. I Googled it. Swear to God. I was in such a spiral that I actually thought, maybe if I was cooler, prettier, edgier, he would have stayed. I skipped meals. I couldn't sleep. I deleted all our pictures, but then checked the recently deleted folder like a junkie needing one more fix. I listened to sad playlists on repeat like I was in a movie no one wanted to watch. My best friend Mia practically staged an intervention. She showed up with Thai food, candles, and a playlist called Songs to Forget a Man Who Peaked in High School. I laughed for like 3 seconds, then cried again. The thing is, I knew I wasn't the most exciting person. I wasn't some social media influencer or party girl or spontaneous jet setter. But I loved him hard. I showed up. I cared about the things he cared about. Apparently, that wasn't enough. It was the coffee mug that broke me. He left it in my kitchen, the one that said, "World's okayest employee," a dumb little inside joke from our first month of dating. I went to throw it away, but I couldn't. So I put it in a cabinet behind the rice cooker and slammed the door shut, like I could trap the memory in there with it. That night, I opened my laptop and did something reckless. I updated my portfolio. I hadn't touched it in over a year. But suddenly I had this quiet rage brewing. Not just at him, but at myself. For shrinking, for dimming my light to make him comfortable, for thinking plain was all I'd ever be. I spent 3 straight days redesigning every slide. And then, without thinking too hard about it, I submitted it to a short list of agencies, including his company. I didn't expect anything. So when I got a reply 4 days later from their senior VP, I nearly dropped my phone. His name was Julian. Yes, that Julian. The one my ex had talked about like he was some mythical figure. Always traveling, always winning awards. The guy who doesn't have time for small talk. Apparently he had time for me. The message was short. Eliza, I came across your portfolio through internal referrals. Your work stands out. Would you be open to discussing potential freelance opportunities over coffee? I stared at it for a full 10 minutes before I responded. And then I said yes. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. He was older, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Polished but approachable. Not the kind of man who checks his watch every 5 minutes. We didn't talk about my ex. Not once. We talked about me, my process, my creative instincts. He made me feel like I mattered. Not just as a designer, but as a person with something to say. That coffee turned into a dinner. That dinner turned into a weekend collaboration. That collaboration turned into something else entirely. It wasn't about revenge. Not at first. Julian didn't even know about my ex until a few weeks later, when I finally told him the whole story during a late-night brainstorming session. He didn't laugh. He didn't make fun of me. He just leaned back, smiled, and said, "If that man thought you were plain, he's clearly blind and stupid." I think that was the moment I started to feel like myself again. Only better. Not the wallpaper version. Not the background girl. But someone who could take up space. Who could walk into a room and not feel the need to shrink. I got a new haircut. I bought a red dress I would have never worn before. I stopped apologizing for existing. And then one day, Julian invited me to a client meeting at his office. That office, where my ex worked, where I used to wait in the car like a dutiful little girlfriend while he wrapped things up. This time I walked in beside Julian, wearing heels, wearing confidence, wearing the red dress. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My ex saw me. His jaw literally dropped. He froze mid-conversation like someone had cut his power supply. Julian, he just smiled and placed a hand on the small of my back. Gentle but firm. like I belonged there. And that was the beginning of the end of the heartbreak, the end of the old version of me, the end of him thinking he could define my worth and walk away untouched. Because now I had someone by my side who saw me, all of me, and didn't find me plain. He found me powerful. And that was only the beginning. I still remember the look on his face. He was standing by the espresso machine in the break room, laughing at something on his phone when he saw me walk in. And I swear, time froze. The laughter dropped off his face like someone had flipped a switch. His eyes landed on me, on us, me standing beside Julian, clipboard in hand, wearing that red dress I knew he'd remember. He blinked once, twice, as if his brain needed extra time to process what he was seeing. Me, in his office, with his boss. I didn't smirk. I didn't say a word. I just walked right past him like he didn't exist. Which, after the way he treated me, he didn't. Julian introduced me to the board like I'd been part of the company for years. He didn't mention that I was freelance. He didn't call me a +1 or a guest. He said, "This is Eliza. She's leading creative for the upcoming campaign. Her work speaks for itself." And just like that, I had a seat at the table. The same table my ex once said was too competitive for me. The one he said I wasn't built for. Oh, but I was. I presented my concepts, answered questions, and watched as senior partners nodded along. One even whispered, "Smart angle," as I wrapped up the final slide. Julian gave me a small smile from across the room. Not proud, not patronizing, just steady, like he knew I'd kill it. After the meeting, I stepped into the hallway and finally saw him again. My ex. He was standing stiff, jaw clenched, eyes flicking between me and Julian like he was trying to solve a math problem that didn't add up. Finally, he spoke. What are you doing here?" I tilted my head casually. "Working." "You." He stared. I could see it. The confusion. The jealousy, the rage barely disguised under his fake composure. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Instead, I walked away. Later that week, Julian asked me out to dinner. And this time, it wasn't work-related. We ended up at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The kind of place where the chairs are velvet and the menu doesn't have prices. I was nervous, not because of him, but because this was the first time in a long time I was letting myself feel something again. He noticed. Halfway through dinner, he leaned forward and said, "You don't have to pretend with me. You can be whoever you are, even if that person is still healing." I nearly cried. No one had said that to me before. Not even close. I was so used to performing, being the cool girlfriend, the supportive one, the chill one, the reliable one, that I didn't even know what it felt like to just be. We talked for hours, not just about work, but life, regrets, books, fears. I told him about the time I wanted to apply to a master's program in Italy and didn't, just because my ex said it was too unrealistic. He looked at me and said, "You should still do it. Plain girls don't dream about Florence, but you're already halfway there." And that's when I realized I was falling for him. Now, before you think this became some fairy tale overnight, let me be honest, it wasn't smooth sailing. I had moments of panic, of self-doubt, of wondering if I was just a rebound to him, or worse, a way to get back at my ex. I brought it up one night. We were sitting on his balcony, sharing a bottle of wine, when I said, "You know I used to date someone from your company, right?" He looked at me, completely unfazed. "Yes, I figured that out after the third meeting." "So, does that bother you?" He took a sip, set his glass down, and said, "No, what bothers me is that he didn't see your worth, that he made you feel like you weren't enough. That's on him, not you." And just like that, something in me clicked. I wasn't just rebuilding. I was healing. Julian never rushed me, never pressured me, never tried to fix me. Instead, he held space for me to fix myself. He encouraged me to pitch my own clients, start my own design blog, speak at conferences. When I hesitated, he reminded me, "There's nothing plain about a woman who knows her value." I stopped shrinking. I started wearing the colors I used to avoid. I cut off the people who only called when they needed something. I changed my apartment. New paint, new furniture, new energy. Every inch of my life became a quiet rebellion against the version of myself I used to be, the one who thought she had to be small to be loved. 3 months later, it happened. We were at a private event, some fundraising gala for a startup Julian had invested in. I was wearing a sleek black gown, hair up, makeup minimal, just enough. Julian introduced me as his partner, not +1, not date, not colleague, partner. I felt his hand slip into mine as we walked into the ballroom, and then I saw him, my ex. He was there, standing by the bar, frozen. He did a double take like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Then his eyes dropped to my hand, the one Julian was holding. And let me tell you, the color drained from his face like a watercolor painting, left in the rain. He tried to act normal, came up to us, forced a smile, and said, "Wow, Eliza, you look different." Julian just smiled and said, "She is different." Then turned to me and whispered, "But she was never plain." That was the moment. Not the glow up, not the job title, not even the attention. It was standing next to someone who saw me, really saw me, and never once asked me to shrink. It was the look on my ex's face when he realized he hadn't left someone forgettable. He'd left someone irreplaceable. That night, Julian and I took the long route home. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. But as we stood in the elevator to his penthouse, he suddenly turned to me and said, "You know I'm falling for you, right?" I smiled. "Yeah, I think I'm falling too." And just like that, the girl who was once told she was too plain to build a future with was now building a future of her own, on her terms, with someone who knew her worth and never let her forget it. The ring was still new, smooth, cold, heavy in a way that felt important. It had only been 2 days since Julian proposed. No grand gestures, no cameras, just the two of us in his kitchen, barefoot, our dinner still steaming on the stove. He had looked at me, no speech, no theatrics, and said, "You've spent enough time being underestimated. I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel that way again." Then he opened the box. It wasn't flashy. No massive stoner Instagram sparkle, but it was elegant, thoughtful. Exactly me. And it was on my finger the night everything came full circle. Julian had a company-wide celebration planned, a huge event. Black tie, catered rooftop, clients flying in from multiple cities. I hadn't planned to attend, at least not originally, but after the proposal, he asked me to come. Not as a freelancer, not as a colleague, as his fiancé. And this time, I didn't hesitate. I wore white, not for symbolism, just because I could. It was a silk wrap gown that hugged all the places I used to hide. My hair was pulled back in a low, sleek twist, and I kept the makeup simple, barely there shimmer and a bold lip. Mia, my best friend, gasped when she saw me. "Okay, ma'am. You're giving CEO's wife and billionaire's muse all in one." I laughed, but even I couldn't deny it. I looked powerful. The elevator doors opened onto the rooftop. Glass walls, soft jazz, golden lights strung above, like little stars winking approval. People mingled, laughed, clinked champagne glasses. And then came the moment. Julian entered beside me, hand resting on my back, proudly guiding me into the crowd. He nodded to a few execs and said calmly, "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my fiancé." I watched the heads turn, smiles, stares, curiosity. Then I saw him, standing near the back, drink in hand, fake laughing at something someone just said. My ex. He turned when he heard Julian's voice, and the instant his eyes landed on me, I saw it. That flicker of disbelief, then confusion, then something much darker. His jaw tightened. His posture straightened like he was bracing for impact. I didn't say a word, I didn't have to. He made his way toward us slowly, like he wasn't sure if he was walking into a dream or a trap. And when he finally stood in front of us, I could tell he wasn't ready. "Eliza," he said, blinking like he was trying to force me into focus. "You're engaged?" Julian didn't give him the chance to spin it. He simply replied with the calm confidence only a man who's already won can muster. "She is." To me. And then he held up my hand. The ring glinted under the rooftop lights, like a flashing sign that read, "She's not yours anymore." The silence between us was deafening. I could tell my ex was scrambling for words, for footing, for control. He let out a short laugh, completely void of humor. "This is sudden, isn't it?" I tilted my head. "Not really. Some people just know what they're looking for. And when they find it, they don't waste time." Boom. Direct hit. He blinked, his smile twitching into something bitter. "I mean, sure, I guess. But don't you think it's a little fast?" Julian spoke before I could respond. "You know what's fast. Telling someone they're too plain and blocking them 2 days before their anniversary? That's fast." My ex's face turned an actual shade of red. The kind of red you only see in thermometers and cartoons. "So, you told him?" I shrugged. "Not everything. Just the part where you decided I wasn't worth your future. Funny how someone 10 years older saw what you couldn't." His lips parted like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Because what could he say? The truth was standing in front of him, in a silk dress, wearing a diamond, glowing like a woman reborn. We walked away before he could come up with a comeback. Julian guided me back into the crowd like nothing had happened. But inside, my heart was pounding. Not because I still cared. Not because I needed closure. But because I realized something so simple, so profound. He no longer had power over me. This man once made me feel like I was forgettable, replaceable, background noise. Now he was the one watching me from a distance. The one clenching his drink, the one left behind. Later in the evening, Julian gave a short speech. He thanked the team, raised a toast, mentioned exciting changes on the horizon. And then, without warning, he said, "And finally, a personal update. I'm getting married to someone who challenges me, grounds me, inspires me, every single day." He turned to me and smiled. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I didn't feel like wallpaper. I felt like the whole damn wall. After the speech, I stepped out onto the balcony alone, just to breathe, to take it all in. That's when I heard the footsteps. I turned, of course. It was him. "You really did it," he said softly, standing beside me. I didn't look at him. "Yep, I did. I didn't think." He trailed off. "You didn't think I'd move on?" I finished for him. "Or that I'd move up?" He sighed. "Look, Eliza, I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was stupid. I didn't think you'd go this far." I finally looked at him. No. You thought I'd fall apart, that I'd sit around wondering what I did wrong, that I'd quietly disappear like I always did. He didn't deny it. But I didn't, I said. I found someone who sees me, who builds with me, who doesn't need me to be loud or wild or dramatic just to feel alive. He looked down, quiet, defeated. You really love him? I didn't hesitate. Yes, and the best part? He loves me without asking me to change a single thing. I walked away after that. Didn't wait for a response. Didn't need one. Some people don't deserve the last word. Back inside, Julian pulled me close. You okay? He asked. More than okay, I said. I think I finally buried her. Her? The version of me that let him decide what I was worth. He kissed my forehead and we rejoined the party. But in my mind, I was somewhere else. Somewhere calmer, brighter, stronger. Because for the first time ever, I wasn't proving anything to anyone. I was just living. Loudly. Clearly. Fully. And I wasn't playing. Not even close. It happened on a Tuesday, a week before the wedding. I was sitting on the floor in sweatpants, surrounded by candles, ribbons, and half-written place cards when my phone buzzed. It was a message. From him. I hadn't seen his name pop up in months. I'd almost forgotten what it looked like in my notifications. Well, not forgotten. Let's be honest. You don't forget the first person who made you feel like you weren't enough. You just learn how to stop letting it ruin your day. But there it was. His name, his message, 8 little words. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I stared at the screen, not in panic, not with hope, just stillness, because I knew exactly what this was. It always happens like this, doesn't it? The moment you finally move on, truly move on, is the exact moment the past knocks at your door. Like it can feel that you've outgrown it, like it wants one last shot at pulling you back. But this time, I wasn't that girl anymore. Not the girl refreshing her texts. Not the one rereading conversations and dissecting what she could have done differently. I was the woman writing vows, the woman ordering flowers, the woman standing in her own power, and wearing the ring of someone who never once asked her to shrink. I didn't open the message. I didn't reply. I just stared at it. And the longer I looked, the more I realized I didn't want to know what he had to say. I didn't care if he was sorry. I didn't care if he missed me. I didn't care if he finally realized what he lost. Because I wasn't living in the version of life where he still had access to me. That night, I told Julian about the message. He didn't react with jealousy or anger, just calm curiosity. Are you okay? He asked. I am, I said. I think that's the strangest part. I thought seeing his name would ruin my day, but it didn't. It didn't change anything. Julian nodded. That's called healing, he said. It's when something that once destroyed you shows up again, and you barely blink. He reached for my hand. The same hand he'd hold a week later while promising forever. The days leading up to the wedding were full of all the usual chaos. Mia cried when she saw me in the dress. My mom kept misplacing her earrings. Julian's cousin forgot the name cards and had to handwrite them the morning of the big wedding day. It was loud and messy and real. The good kind of messy. But beneath the buzz, I carried this strange, peaceful silence in me. Like the ghost of my past had finally stopped knocking. I never told anyone what I did with the message, but I'll tell you. The night before our wedding, I opened it. Not to read it, just to clear it. I stared at those 8 words one last time. Then I held down the message and hit delete. No screenshot, no drama, no second thoughts. Just delete. Gone. Like he had never been part of this chapter at all. The next day, I walked down the aisle in a garden strung with fairy lights and soft music. It wasn't a massive wedding, just the people who mattered. Julian stood at the altar, eyes soft, hands steady, and as I took my first step toward him, I realized something. The girl who once Googled how to be more exciting, the one who cried into her pillow over a man who blocked her like she was a bad decision, she was gone. In her place was someone new, someone rebuilt. Not by Julian, but by herself. Julian didn't save me. He gave me the space to save myself. After the ceremony, while guests danced and glasses clinked and laughter filled the garden, I slipped away for a moment. I went to my car, opened the glove box, and pulled out something I'd kept hidden for almost a year. The mug. His mug. The one that said world's okayest employee. The last thing I hadn't let go of. I held it for a second. Then I walked it over to the dumpster behind the venue and dropped it in. It didn't break, but it didn't need to, because I did. And I put myself back together piece by piece. Stronger, sharper, smarter. People always want a dramatic ending, a final confrontation, a big explosive moment. But that's not what healing looks like. Healing is quiet. It's deleting the message without reading it. It's walking past the ghosts and not flinching. It's choosing peace when chaos tries to crawl back in. It's standing in front of someone who once made you feel invisible and realizing you don't feel a single thing anymore. So yeah, he messaged me a week before my wedding, and I left him on read because the most powerful response is no response at all.